It was my first year of teaching. I'm standing there in front of the classroom, consumed in the messaging of whatever lesson it was. And unbeknownst to me, I had a surprise visitor. A kid from an older class snuck into my classroom while I was teaching. And before you know it, seen through my peripheral vision, he brandishes a gun, puts it to my head, and pulls the trigger. Click. It was a toy gun. A lifelike toy gun. And the kids in my class laughed hysterically. I smiled, trying to pretend that it didn't bother me at all. But it did bother me. I was shaking inside. That gun looked as real as anything I've ever seen. I took it to my principal. And guess what my principal did? Pretty much nothing. The kid got a slap on the wrist. Hardly an inconvenience. And I realized a very, very difficult truth. The system is not always there to protect me. The system will not always protect teachers. And even though I didn't blame myself, I did realize that I had become a soft target for these types of pranks, and I didn't want to become a soft target anymore. And my message to you is, if you're thinking of leaving the classroom because of the way you've been dealt with, both by students and then by admin, and if you're tired of it all and you want to leave, please watch this first. Because what I might say today might give you more perspective and allow you to make a more informed decision, whatever that decision will be. Over the years, I've spoken to so many teachers, some who have literally held the hallway walls to support them from falling because they felt faint from what they experienced in the lesson just beforehand. Teachers whose bodies gave out before their minds were ready to admit how bad things had gotten. Teachers who sent emails begging for help, but whose emails were never responded to in kind. Teachers who tried to talk to someone about their problems, but got nothing of value that they could really put successfully into their classroom. And teachers who describe the experience of being in the classrooms with words that really make me want to break down and cry. How they feel judged every single day based on someone's behavior. Because that's exactly what it feels like, doesn't it? You prepare, you plan, you pour yourself into your work, and then a little human comes into your classroom who's experienced a bad day, who's navigating their own personal chaos, and they determine whether your day is successful or unsuccessful. And nobody prepares for you for that reality. Here is something that really struck me recently. I'm currently studying a master's in counseling. And one of the things you learn in the counseling profession is that you cannot work alone. Every counselor, no matter how good they are, no matter how experienced they are, is required to find themselves a supervisor. Not advised to, required to. Someone they can debrief with, someone who will walk alongside them and guide them and help them stay grounded. It's not optional. It's a professional obligation, because the counseling profession understands something that the teaching profession refuses to understand. And that is that without this very structure, without a mentor, burnout is not a risk. It's a prediction. Counselors sit with one person. This is the irony of it. They sit with one person for 50 minutes in a quiet room. Teachers stand in front of 30 students carrying trauma, and are handed a timetable and told just to be resilient, work it out. Yeah, it's going to be tough. Develop some skills. Please understand that this problem is not your fault. It's just the reality of the educational system as we know it. And I think it explains a great deal why you might be considering walking away from the profession. But I want to say something that I don't think gets said enough. I want you to consider about what it took for you to get here. The years of university and training, the assignments, the exams, the teaching rounds, and who can forget the student debt, the applications, the rejections before you got your first job, the sacrifices you made all throughout this process, and the people around you who sacrificed so that you can get to be where you are now. And I want to be very clear to you. I'm not saying you owe the system your suffering. I'm not saying you should stay in something that is destroying you. Some teachers should absolutely leave. And leaving is sometimes the bravest and most honest thing a person can do. But I am saying this. If you search YouTube right now, do a rudimentary search, type in why teachers quit, there'll be a myriad of videos validating this decision and even encouraging it. If you search for don't quit or try this before you quit, you'll find almost nothing. Nobody is stepping up to ask a very important question. Before you write off everything you invested to get to this very point, have you exhausted the one thing that you can actually control? Because when you hand in your keys, you do not leave your student debt behind. That student debt ain't paying itself. You don't leave all those years of training behind. You carry it all into whatever you do next. And whatever you choose to do next, that next phase of your life, there's no guarantees that you'll get better pay. There's no guarantee that it'll be more fulfilling. And it's no guarantee that it will be less draining. You deserve to find out if this can work before you walk away. Most of what is making teaching brutal right now, you cannot fix by yourself. You can't fix how much you get paid. You can't fix the admin. You can't fix the school culture that you're in. You can't fix what's happening at home with your students. But there is one part of this challenge that you can fix. What happens inside the classroom. That's one variable you can change. And you can change without waiting for anyone else's opinion or permission. And in my experience, when that one variable changes, your relationship to everything else changes with it. I know this because of what happened after that first year. After the toy gun, after the principal who did absolutely nothing to reinforce standards. After I sat with what happened and admitted to myself that I had become a soft target for such pranks, I decided, yes, I can't control the system, but I can control what I bring into that classroom. And that decision, uncomfortable as it was to make, it changed the trajectory of my entire career. But having said that, I didn't exactly know what to change. I just knew that changes needed to be made. You see, I'd been given pretty much nothing practical from university or from my colleagues to help initiate that change. And I also had a misconception about caring teachers. I believe that most caring teachers, when they possess the passion, when they're dynamic and engaging, and they care about their students, that will cause the behavior management to just follow along with it. I believe that kindness meant letting certain things go. And I was wrong. I thought that it was all about being compassionate. If you're a compassionate teacher, you're a great teacher automatically. I was wrong. I thought that I was protecting relationships by being lenient on certain students. I was wrong. I thought overlooking small things was all about what kind teachers do. I was wrong. Eventually, I realized that what classrooms crave is certainty. Students do not experience consistency as harshness. They experience it as safety. And the room notices everything. Every time I ignored something because I was either tired or because I wanted to avoid conflict or because I felt sorry for the student or I was in a good mood and I just let it go, I was teaching everyone else that my standards just depended on my own emotion of the day. And that's exhausting for students. And it became exhausting for me as the teacher. You see, I didn't need to become tougher, but I did need to become more predictable. Slowly over the years, I discovered that caring teachers do not need to become harsher. They need systems, and they need systems that work with their warmth and empathy, and that can actually work through all their attributes rather than against them. And that's why I shared in my first video that CALM method. The CALM method is 4 strategies developed over the 25 years that I've been working in the educational field. And it's a framework that you can start with tomorrow morning. You just download that free resource in the description. And that free resource is something you can take into your classroom and start immediately. And what's the inspiration for this free resource? What's the inspiration for this channel? A teacher like Mia. I want to tell you about Mia. When Mia got her first ever teaching job, she came in during the holidays on cloud 9. She spent hours reworking that classroom to put her own personal spin on it, her own personal touch on it, making it everything look pristine. Her face lit up the day she got the job. But it only took a few months and her body language changed completely. Her demeanor was not the same. The way she carried herself into the building each morning, there was a discernible difference. Classroom management had gotten to her. And it had gotten to her very quickly. I quickly got some colleagues together and I proposed that we do a kind of reflection circle after school once a week where we discuss some of the issues we're having in the classroom. I thought it might be a great way for her not to feel singled out, but then to be able to help her. She did attend these sessions. She did end up speaking about some of her difficulties. We gave the best advice we could possibly give, but unfortunately, it was too late. 6 months into her teaching career, Mia resigned from her job, and as far as I know, she's never walked into a classroom again. All those years of training, all that potential, all that genuine love for the work, and she never got the chance to discover the teacher she could have become. The system, a very broken system, broke her before she ever got a chance to find out her own potential as a teacher. I think about Mia when I think about why I started this channel. Not because her story is unusual, because unfortunately, as we all know, this is not an unusual story. And I think about you, the audience. You might be 6 months from becoming Mia. Or alternatively, you might be 6 months from turning a corner. And in my experience, the difference between those two futures has nothing to do with talent. It has nothing to do with passion. Mia had talent. Mia had passion. It's not how much you care about your students. Mia cared about her students. You have all of those things already. It's about whether somebody gives you the right system before that exhaustion hits to a point where there's no coming back, where that loneliness convinces you that you were never meant for this work. And I wish someone had told me in my first year of teaching that struggling with behavior management does not mean that you are a failure as a teacher. It just means you need a system. And that is what I want to give you through this channel. I don't want you to wake up in 5 years' time with regrets, thinking to yourself, well, maybe I just needed a mentor. Maybe I just needed support. Maybe I just needed some kind of guide to turn it all around. I want you to discover what kind of teacher you can become. I want you to experience a future when you can go into a classroom and no longer spend every day in survival mode, because that teacher might actually surprise you. And that teacher might very well be locked in here waiting to come out. Download the free Calm Method guide in the description below. Watch the first video if you haven't already, and tell me in the comments where you are right now. What's your problems? Why are you considering leaving the profession? Who is letting you down? What is letting you down? And guess what? Other teachers might be reading your comment and thinking to themselves, I'm in exactly the same boat. And knowing that you're not alone is sometimes the very first thing that keeps you going. I'm Michael, and I will see you next week.